All right, we're going to go ahead and get started this evening with the March 24th Town of Clayton Planning Board meeting. And let's call to order for this. Before we do that, let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. All right, you want to do the roll call?
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and do a roll call here. Let's see. Vice Chair Dupree?
Here.
Board Member Applewhite? Here. Board Member Gleason? Here. Board Member Saraski?
Here.
Board Member Bland?
Here.
Board Member Carter?
Here.
Board Member Hooker?
Here.
Board Member Hall? Here. And Board Member Williams is excused today, so Board Member McKerney.
Today.
Thank you. He is out sick. So all members are present. We have a quorum, sir.
All right. First thing we need to do is to approve the meetings from the January 28th meeting. Has everybody had a chance to see those? Any changes? Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion.
Motion by Board Member Bland, second.
Second.
Second by Board Member McKerney. All in favor? Aye. Okay. We are now down to item 4, public meeting, and tonight is going to be short and sweet from that. There are no public meetings this evening, so we move to item 5, new business, the election of chair and co-chair, and I will turn it over to staff.
Thank you, sir. What I'd like to do is open it up for nominations to the chair, and then I would ask for a second. Upon having those nominations, we'll conduct a vote, and then I will hand it to the chair, and then they will be able to proceed the same process for a vice chair. So at this time, I'd like to open the floor for any nominations for chair of the planning board.
I'd like to nominate Jody Dupree, our current interim chair. as Chair.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thanks. Thank you. Are there any other nominations at this time? All right, hearing none, I will go ahead and conduct the vote. All those in favor of, I will be doing a roll call. So this motion is in favor for Jody Dupree to be chair of the planning board. I'll start with, I'll go down to Ms. Bland.
Aye.
Board Member Gleason.
Aye.
Board Member Hall.
Aye.
Board Member Carter.
Aye.
Board Member Dupree.
I'll abstain. It feels bad.
Is that an aye, sir?
Yes, that's an answer.
All right. Board Member Hooker.
Aye.
Board Member Saraski.
Aye.
Board Member McKerney.
Aye.
Board Member Applewhite.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, sir. Welcome to the board as the chair. And I'll
Thank
hand
you
it over
very
to
much.
you.
Thank y'all. Appreciate it. At this time, I will entertain motions for the vice chair. Do we have a motion? The
I'd
chair
like to-
recognizes Board Member Saraski.
I'd like to nominate Derek Applewhite for vice chair.
Okay, we have a motion to nominate Derek Applewhite. Do we have a second?
I moved to second it.
We have a motion and a second from Board Member Hall. Do we have any other nominations? Hearing none, I'll ask, you want me to go down the list? Or you want to call them again?
I'll go ahead and do a quick roll call. All those in favor of the motion, Board Member Bland?
Aye.
Board Member Gleason?
Aye.
Board Member Hall?
Aye.
Board Member Carter?
Aye.
Chair Dupree?
Aye.
Board Member Hooker?
Aye.
Board Member Saraski?
Aye.
Board Member McKerney?
Aye.
And Board Member Applewhite?
Aye.
Great. Thank you, sir. Motion passes unanimously.
Motion passed. Congratulations, Derek.
You better put something.
That's fine. I had to do it. I mean, it would be bad if there was a no in there. All right. Also under item 5B, we are now up to the comprehensive transportation plan, the introduction of the town of Clayton's first comprehensive transportation plan to the planning board. There's no action tonight, but we do have a presentation by staff.
Thank you, Chair Dupree and members of the planning board. I did want to bring to your attention the comprehensive transportation plan town's first comprehensive transportation plan. I brought this before you all so you can take a look at this document. We'll be bringing this back to you with a formal presentation, and we're soliciting a recommendation from the planning board at that time. So your April 28th meeting, this will be the time for you all to the consultant will be here, staff will be here, and we'll be able to have a discussion about this, this important planning document before we take it to town council. So at this time, I wanted to just make sure to get in front of you all so you had enough time to really sit with it, get familiar with it. If you have any comments for this document, you can either provide them directly to myself. I'd ask that you give me comments no later than April 7th on Monday, so that way I can give anything back to the consultant team for consideration to be included in the final draft. This draft is very well cooked. Staff is feeling pretty good about this draft, and nonetheless, I wanted to give you guys enough time to sit with it, because it is a big document. It's very important, and we'll be bringing it back to the board for recommendation again, scheduled for April 28th. So,
Did we have a count of how many people came the night of looked at the thing? Did anybody count? I just wondered.
oh, we've had the night that we had a stakeholder meetings. We had some stakeholder meetings in June of last year. Was it June this summer? Gosh, it seems like it wasn't that long ago. So we had, I don't have exact numbers of that, but the report does have some stakeholder engagement information. So it goes over all the different open house or the events that we had throughout the summer. Like we went to the Clayton Clovers baseball stadium and had a tent there. We had a presence at one of the events we had in the summer here, just a couple of them, but there's a good amount of folks. So we had in person, and then we had an online survey also, and there's some numbers in the report in one of the chapters in there.
It's not a survey. I just wondered, if, especially with the survey, a lot of times, you don't hear a lot until you actually start to break ground and do something, then
you hear about it.
that's when folks show up.
We could confidently say that we did get a good amount of responses from the community. Yeah. Available for any other questions? Anything else about the report?
Not a question, but a comment. I browsed through the report, and it's a lot of information. It's not necessarily an easy read unless you break it up. But kudos to the team that put it together. There's a lot of information, and it appears to be very well thought out with a lot of good goals for the town of Clayton. So kudos to the team, everybody that was involved in putting it together.
Great. I'll relay that to our consultant. They've been working pretty hard on it. Yep.
Yeah, I would say the same. I thought it was a very comprehensive report. There were a couple of things that I saw in there that maybe I missed, maybe I didn't. But there's a whole list of different things that you have as priority. And there's no key there to say, is number 1 the priority or is number 10 the priority? And if the public's reading it, they're not going to understand that. The other thing is I don't know what's funded and what's not funded. It's just a big comprehensive list. So it'd be nice to know what's actually funded, what's not funded, and if it's funded, what's the start date? I mean, those are the things that I'm looking for in a report. So I'll put that in writing back to you.
Great.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one question. I think it would be helpful for the board, as far as this being actionable for the board and for town council when they're reviewing projects. Could you explain a little bit about how staff will use the transportation plan and how we should use it in coordination with other documents to make our decisions? Because I think that we're looking at 5 or 6 different documents in total when considering projects, and I think some of them are a little easier to the ordinance, for example, it's a long document, but it's pretty clear that if you're looking at this use and this zone, it's pretty straightforward. How might the planning board use the transportation plan in that same way, if that makes sense?
So it sounds like I got 2 relative answers. So staff would be using this document with a development that was coming through that might need additional right-of-way dedication to make the lane wider, to make some improvements like sidewalks, greenway paths. Some of those projects may not come to the planning board. They might be uses by right in the UDO. So staff would use this document to understand the cross-section and the road improvements that we could negotiate or acquire from a developer. So that's where that cross-section component of this document might be of relevance, and also the list that shows the roads and the different cross-sections that correspond. The planning board can ask the questions when an item comes before you all with regards to a conditional rezoning, perhaps, where you're confirming the road improvements that are being provided by the developer, if they are aligning with the comp transportation plan. There's also some groundwork laid out for other planning documents, other studies, the downtown study about parking, for example. So there's some, I want to say what else, also for maybe some transit studies as well. So this is laying out groundwork for other more focused planning projects and studies that the town can also kind of partake on. So we could bring that back to the planning board for a recommendation, that we could solicit a recommendation to that might go on the council for approval. So there's many aspects of the report that can find its way into the planning board, and then some that might just be administrative in nature.
Conrad, can you talk a little bit about what Johnston County is doing with their plan and how this is intermingling with their plan?
Great question. So comprehensive transportation planning is a buzz in the topic in the county, because the Johnston County is also doing its CTP, its comp transportation plan, and the timing is relative where what we approve in this document can find itself in the Johnston County's comprehensive transportation plan. And on that note, the CAMPO, which is a capital area metropolitan planning organization's transportation, is also updating its the MTP, master transportation plan, and the recommendations from this document will find its way into CAMPO. And CAMPO's MTP is what is going to be one of they provide the transportation dollars for the funding. So that's where that funding mechanisms might come into play, where CAMPO's projects are aligning. So there's transportation planning has its base in a municipality that approves its plan, that goes on to a county plan, that goes on to a metropolitan organization plan, and then that's how we can allocate funding for special projects within the town, in partnership with NCDOT as well. So a lot of moving parts, and what I'll make sure to relay to our consultant to explain that kind of base picture for us, and make sure that it's articulated. If there's any questions in the planning document that are questionable with that regard, then let me know, so that way we can really provide it in a way that's digestible for everybody.
And just piling on briefly, the county's also doing their countywide trails and greenways plan as well. So hopefully they're linking together with their transportation plan along with Clayton's.
And so to further that, so does NCDOT as well look at this and say, yes, this aligns with our vision also, or is this kind of presented to them, and how does that play out?
Great question. We've had the NCDOT Division 4, I believe it is. They're the ones in charge of our area, and they've been a part of our steering committee, our technical team. So they've been a part of the plans creation process. And really they may not build, let's say there's a project and our CTP says it's a 4-lane road, and it's a 2-lane road right now. And the town's plan might say this is a 4-lane road. And so what that would let us do is acquire some right-of-way dedication, and then maybe acquire some fee in lieu. So when the NCDOT decides to make this into a 4-lane road, we have the right-of-way ready for that road to be built, and we have some money to put in any of the offsite, on any like a sidewalk or a greenway trail improvements to that road. So yeah, and it's really, we've been wanting to involve NCDOT at the division level to make sure that what we are doing is going to be in alignment with what they're able to actually to build and to help us get to realize what that plan is here in town.
There's actually a great segue into my next question. I know working with NCDOT that there's a lot of other municipalities throughout the state that do fee and lieu's, various different ways. Based on what you just said about the fee and lieu, like let's say, someone wants to put a development off Jack Road, just because I'm looking at it. Does the town of Clayton set aside those funds for projects specifically for the areas of development? Because I've heard from a lot of other municipalities that they take the fees and lieu's and basically just use the funds right away to say, oh, we have the money now to complete this other project that we have right away. So how does the town of Clayton handle those funds?
That's a great question, and I don't have the right answer for you right now, but I will look into that and follow up. Yeah. The fee in lieu is someone basically saying, this is not the right time to put this construction. If we put in a curb and gutter with the sidewalk, maybe two years from now, it might get torn up. So instead of having that cost in, they give us a fee in lieu of putting in that infrastructure. So I don't have a correct answer as to, does that money go into a money pot that can be used for other projects, or is it specific to that stretch of frontage road?
But let me mention something real quick with the fee and lieu. I mean, this came up in one of our recent meetings with the Nova Nordis project, right? That they weren't going to do sidewalk in a certain area. If the sidewalk's on the plan, then we can do something about it. But if the sidewalk's not in the plan, it's much harder for us to require anything. So it's a basis for a lot of things that we can do for the town to do betterments that maybe we weren't thinking about before.
Yeah, and the other reason I kind of brought it up, just to kind of backbone off of that, was especially with discussions on DOT, just for all of you to be aware, the cost of a multi-use path or a sidewalk or a shared use path is, pins and needles in terms of the cost of actually allocating the right-of-way. So if we have the option to at least enforce developers to maybe allocate right-of-way, that's going to be a better use case going forward for the town or NCDOT or whoever in the future to be able to build that path. And you might be able to kind of confirm that, but I've always kind of heard that the actual construction of a sidewalk costs nothing to what it would cost to actually purchase the land that is essentially the decision maker. So
Yeah, I would confirm that in general, that's the cost is acquiring that private property. As property values go up, that stretch of, 10 foot by however long your property is going to cost a lot more. So we can require that, but, we have the plan that shows that we can acquire that, maybe not build it at the time, or if it's ready, then we can have it constructed. Yep.
That's pretty clear when they had the thing here last month with the pictures of what the new corridor was going to look like. If you look at the total cost of that project and look at how it's divided up and look at the cost of attaining right-of-way and look at that as a percentage of the total cost, no question, that's where the big money's at. And roads cost more than sidewalks, but still big money. Mm-hmm. Any other comments for Conrad?
I've got one question. I just want to make sure I read this correctly. In here, it talks about US 70 business, and am I correct in seeing this, that the proposal on the table per this plan is actually to keep it as it is and reduce the speed limit to 45 miles per hour?
The speed limit I'd have to confirm, but going through town, we are recommending that the road not be increased to 6 lanes, to be a super street, to keep it as what it is, and to address traffic concerns with other signalization improvements and other basic, transportation fixes, if you will. That was really because US 70 has, or which would now be, Clayton Boulevard? Clayton Boulevard, we don't want it to be a barrier between the north and south part of town. And so the consulting team did some analysis, and you can find a detailed section on there where there's some descriptions of the studies that they did, 6-lane versus 4-lane. Interesting. I don't think we would be supportive if it was suggesting we would have gridlock traffic on Clayton Boulevard if it wasn't increased in size. But yes, to confirm that is the direction we're going on.
And it appears, I mean, and I'm not a traffic expert, but it appears that they're estimating that'll reduce the amount of traffic by 25% if we reduce the speed limit 10 miles per hour.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it appears to me in the plan that they're suggesting that by reducing the speed limit to 45, it will reduce the volume of traffic 25%. That, I don't know.
It forces people onto the bypass because they don't want to drive that slow.
So it's a, kind of, do you mind if I answer that comment?
Yeah, absolutely, please. I know, yeah, you're.
So I was a stakeholder on this, so I can give you some answers. So, and I agree with a lot of the statements they made about Clayton Boulevard, which is now US 70, by the way. We'll have to fix that in here. It's, when you do a study like this, it's a combination of everything, and you're taking the model runs from Conrad mentioned Campo and the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. You're taking those model runs for the future. And what it does is it assigns trips to things. And if you reduce the speed limit, it's doing exactly what Jody said. He's absolutely right. It actually moves traffic to other corridors. And so what that does is because you're taking down the speed limit, people are less apt to use it, so they are using other corridors. I think where this area may falter into the future, and this is just, and there's nothing the town of Clayton can do about this, is that I think when they built, just like with every other bypass in the state, when they built the bypass, they were probably thinking it was going to be 4 lanes forever. It's going to need to be 6 lanes probably within the next 10, 15 years.
Sorry.
Which it's not going to, I know, I've driven it between the interchange and 36 and Veterans Parkway, and it's already backed up during peak hours. So I think that's the place where there might need to be improvements, but I absolutely agree with the assessment that they should lower the speed limit on 70, and it will not act as a barrier. All you got to do is go to Garner, go to Garner and see what 70 has done to that town, and understand why we don't want to do that here in Clayton. We're learning from mistakes of other communities.
Any other comments?
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
That's a great comment, because that is something that I think people don't necessarily realize the whole scale of this and how we look at the whole scale of this when we're looking at this, and all of these goes with the priorities, but looking at it in a full scale picture, we eventually want to get to everything that's in that document. And what I really like is that there's a lot of focus on sidewalks, pedestrian movements, things like that we missed. They mentioned 70 and Shotwell, that we missed in projects like 70 and Shotwell.
One last thing, and I'm finished, I promise. This is amazing. I think it's great. I think it's great to publish this for the public to be able to see it. The amount of detail in here is really, really good. It's presented as a plan with vision and goals. The one thing I would suggest is at the very end, how do you know you've been successful with this? There's nothing that shows that you've met those goals. The metrics, I don't see them in place that says, okay, did we enhance accessibility and connectivity with this plan, so that along the way you can measure how you're doing on it? Some type of metrics for each of the goals that are in place, just something that is quantifiable, so you know if you're doing what you wanted to do. So
Yeah. I'm really grateful for this opportunity to discuss. This would give me, I took some notes, and please send me your thoughts as you read through the document, because I'd like to get the consultant, at least have a discussion with the consultant, because WSP with Siobhan, he's our project lead. He's very thoughtful about the considerations and can give a response to a lot of the questions and why things are the way they are. There's a lot of moving parts of the planning document. So what I would again ask, just if you have any comments that you'd like us to consider, like if you pick apart one chapter, and that's a great point. It is a big document. Maybe go to the one that really interests you and start there and see what comes to you. There's a chapter on safety, for instance, and that was pulled up because safety was in our prior drafts, safety was kind of a foot at the end of each chapter, and I asked Siobhan if you could maybe pull those out and make a separate chapter. So you'll notice a chapter on safety, for instance. We got chapters on the roadways, so if roadways speak to you, if you got the sidewalks, if you're interested in the stakeholder engagement, then dive into that and see if you can find anything. If there are any questions you have, send them my way, and I'd ask if you can give those to me by April 7th, then I can maybe get those implemented in the draft that they're preparing for you all on the 28th of April. Great, thank you.
Thank you, Conrad. All right, item 6 on our agenda, informal discussion and public comment. Is there any members of the public who would like to be heard tonight? Come forward, sir, if you would. If you would, state your name and your address for us. Hang on, I think your microphone is off. Say all that again.
Okay. My name is Ed Baster, and I live in Caroline Overlook, 268 Steeplechase Boulevard, same neighborhood Tom lives in. And looking at the GIS map, I was on a planning commission back in Pennsylvania, so I came down and first of all see how you would operate your meeting. But looking at the GIS map, I looked at the Ashcroft expansion. And in the Ashcroft expansion, where it shows the traffic study that they did, as you come down O'Neill off of Covered Bridge, every intersection, because they're going to run a road straight across from Steeplechase into their South Site Boulevard, and they're going to bring one straight across at the light into Ashcroft. All those intersections, except ours, have a turning lane to get off of O'Neill. When you're coming southbound through the light from Covered Bridge onto O'Neill, there is no turning lane to the Steeplechase. We've had people tailgated to try to stop. My wife makes me put the turn signal on at the light. And so I came to your planning commission, talked with, I believe her name's Audrey, one of your engineers. Is it Audrey Duchesne?
Yes. She's a planner.
Okay.
of the town.
I talked to her and I explained to her, and she went and looked it up and she said, you're right. We do not have a turn in there. We think we missed it. She said, but it's already been approved by your committee, and it's also been approved by NCDOT. So she said, you have to talk to NCDOT. So in turn, I called NCDOT and talked to a gentleman by the name of Sawyer Roberts down in Smithfield. And I sent him a letter basically saying, thanks for the time to discuss this important issue with me today. The issue is a lack of a turning lane going southbound on O'Neill Steeplechase. The attached PDF, you'll see the turnoff of O'Neill has a turning lane except the southbound making a right into Steeplechase. Even though there's a traffic light at Covered Bridge in O'Neill, traffic still speeds through the light at about 60 miles an hour. Residents at Caroline Overlook have almost been run off the road, being tailgated, trying to make a right-hand turn. Please, I would appreciate if someone in your office could review this traffic configuration for the safety of our residents. Please feel free to contact me with any questions. He, in turn, discussed with them, sent back to me. I had a chance to discuss this today with our staff. We appreciate your concern for safety. As you noted, the entrance does not have a right turn lane associated with it. This is mainly due to the new traffic signal that was installed at O'Neill and Covered Bridge. The traffic signal should help with the flow of traffic, slowing it down. Additionally, a right turn lane was not required due to proposed trip generation. It was found that most of the traffic would utilize the entrance on Covered Bridge Road, which has a left and right turn lanes, or be coming from town making a left in the development of O'Neill Street. We will continue to monitor the area and the need for additional improvements. I sent back to Mr. Roberts. Thanks for looking into this and continuing to monitor the area. I'll also keep in touch if we start to have any issues with this intersection. That's what I sent back to him. And basically, this is off the Ashcroft plan, which shows that there is a turning lane every direction except in to Steeplechase Boulevard. And this is a copy, you can have it if you'd like it.
Sure.
Right here, you have turning lanes going here, you have turning lane coming this way. Going into Ashcroft, coming from Clayton, you have a turning lane going into the bottom of Ashcroft. At the four, you have turning lanes everywhere except this lane right here that has no turning lane.
Into Steeplechase. Okay. I remember when at one point when we were talking about Carolina Overlook, I feel like somebody in the public that night, and this is before most of the people on this board, but I remember somebody in the public that night mentioning a turn lane there. I do think that probably, and this is only my opinion, and this, we have no authority to require a turn lane, obviously. But my opinion is at the time that they were looking at this, I don't think most people, there was no build out in Carolina Overlook on the O'Neill Street side. All the build out was mainly hitting Covered Bridge. And so everybody that went in and out went in at that end. And it's only been recently that cars, even the pavement there is good enough for cars to come in and out onto there. So that may be something that has to get looked at in the future, but that would be something obviously for the town to look at and the Department of Transportation.
There's also going to be two other things, because if you look at the Ashcroft development.
Get stand in front of that microphone if you would.
If you look at the Ashcroft development from Steeplechase, that's going to go across the south site and up to Covered Bridge, that's all zone commercial. So you're going to have some type of commercial traffic coming out onto there as well. And also the backside of the Carolina Overlook, where it heads off of Whirlaway, past where it dead ends at Whirlaway, that's also zone residential or neighborhood commercial, I believe. So you're going to have more traffic dumped onto that road. So for us to not to have a turning lane, it's like, I understand that the traffic light, they said limits it, but when that traffic light is green, those people get a running start coming down Covered Bridge into Clayton. I mean, you can't see their headlights are on your tail.
I go through it every day. I'm well aware that nobody's.
You know what I'm talking about.
Go ahead.
Can I answer a question and make a suggestion? So I'm going to answer one of your questions. So the Ashcroft development cannot be required to do work on someone else's property. So that's why they were not going to put a right turn
no,
in. So I just wanted to make sure we got that.
I understand.
My suggestion for you would be when you to go back to DOT and ask for a speed study to lower the speed limit on that roadway. Now, what they're going to do is they're going to do a speed study and they're going to tell you that the 95th percentile speed is probably 55 miles an hour or 60 miles an hour. So they need to keep it at 55 because I have no clue why this section of O'Neill is 55 miles an hour. My suggestion is that we as the town can make a suggestion to DOT to change the speed limit to at least go down, change it to 45, considering it's 35 on one end and 45 on the other end. There's no reason for that section with the amount of communities that are now built along that stretch of O'Neill. You're coming through an area that, yeah, it goes over the Greenway, but there's still a Greenway section there. There's a parking area for the Greenway. It might be better for that section of road to be reconsidered, the speed limit of that road. Because right now, that's the only solution that you're going to probably be able to get.
When the gentleman here spoke about having land acquisition, developers being able to submit land, we have a meeting on Wednesday with our land developer. And I already have a question to him, why is there not a turning lane? Should I ask him, would you be willing to give the property for a turning lane?
You can ask him anything. It doesn't mean he'll.
Oh, I understand. Yeah.
You can ask, but they would have to build it too, because there's no funds out there to be able to build that turn lane.
Okay.
They would have to do it.
Well, yeah, I understand too, and I understand that whole project to put all those lanes in is in the future. But I was just, when it does become a reality, I was wondering if it could be considered to add that turning lane. So
I'm sure it could be. That's something to bring up to them. And like Board Member Sarasky said, reducing the speed limit would not fix it, but it would help.
I agree. All right. Thanks for your time.
Because if it's 55, people drive 65.
Yep.
And
All right.
I'm probably one of them. Thank you, sir. Any other public comments tonight? Any comment from the board, discussion of anything tonight before we adjourn?
Just one quick comment. I think with the traffic impact analysis, and we'll see those that continue to come in with projects where they're required, and with all due respect to the engineers and the folks that put together those models, they're not always exactly right. Ultimately, there is going to be more traffic than they expect, and sometimes I think the practical concerns, like the folks from the public have mentioned it tonight and in other meetings, need to be considered, especially in areas of town that we know are growing. I know we can't ask much more of the developers beyond what is required in those traffic impact analysis and what DOT requires, but I think it's just something for us to continue to consider and question when they come before us.
Thank you. Anybody else with a comment, concern tonight? All right, I will accept a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Have a motion from Board Member Sarasky. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second from Board Member Bland. All in favor, say aye. We are adjourned. Thank you.